Hello, folks. What if the autonomous driving race is already over and Wall Street professionals have not figured this out yet? Today, I will show why self-driving has the cost structure of a natural monopoly and why Tesla investors will make amazing returns in 2026 going forward. So, definition of a natural monopoly. Natural monopoly exists when an industry has long-run average costs of production declining throughout the entire industry, the entire market. Over here on the right, we have a graph showing on the vertical axis the cost per unit, okay? And you could think of this as the cost per mile of traveling using a full self-driving technology like a Waymo or Zoox or a Tesla Robotaxi. And then on the horizontal axis, we have the quantity that would be like maybe billions of miles driven for using autonomous driving. Okay, so some of the characteristics with natural monopoly, we have unique product. This is big. High fixed costs, okay, usually gigantic fixed costs and low marginal costs, low variable costs of adding additional customers. And the classic example of natural monopolies would be electrical power distribution. And over here we have a picture that shows what New York City looked like in the late 1890s with dozens and dozens of companies stringing wires helter-skelter throughout the city. And imagine the cost of installing all those different wires that are running parallel to each other and the maintenance, if there's an ice storm comes in and having to, repair them, etc. Um, Not a very efficient distribution network. And here we have the railroads in the 1880s would really be considered a classic example of a natural monopoly because it's super high fixed costs of laying down railroad tracks and leveling the earth in order to have a train be able to travel over the earth. At one point in time, railroad baron Cornelius Vanderbilt amassed a fortune equal to almost 5% of US GDP, which is equivalent to about a $300 billion net worth in today's money. Um, so this graph, it shows the red lines show the railroad tracks that he owned. And imagine that a farmer in Illinois wants to maybe ship their couple hundred bushels of grain to Indianapolis. Well, adding adding an additional 100 or 200 bushels of wheat to a railroad car and delivering that to from one state to the next costs almost no additional variable cost to the owner of the railroad operator. Okay, um, so that is what we're talking about when we're talking about a natural type of monopoly, super high fixed costs and low variable costs. So if we compare for example, Tesla full self-driving system to its closest competitor of Waymo, we can see a tremendous difference in the design decisions that were done many, many years ago for these competing systems. Tesla decided to go with a very low variable cost but high fixed cost approach of doing this almost completely using AI. Okay, so a Tesla automobile has 8 cameras going around it that can see in all different directions. It uses those cameras in order to train a massive, massive AI training large type of large language model. And then from the AI and the camera inputs, we get driving decisions for the car. Waymo, very, very different approach. Didn't really have the vision of like how powerful AI would become. And so they made, in my opinion, a massive mistake in thinking that in order to be safe, that they had to include LiDAR systems, radar systems, and then in addition, cameras. Okay. All these very, very expensive sensing systems, and those serve as inputs that go into a program that creates what's called fusion of the data into their sensor fusion, which actually creates a lot of problems because if the lidar system is saying that you have a potential problem, but the camera system or the radar system is not detecting it, then you have to make these really complicated decisions about, well, do I trust the lidar? Do I trust the radar? Do I trust the camera? And this is beginning to be this is showing up in a very big way with problems with Waymos. Then they have to do 3D mapping of the entire city, okay, that the Waymo is going to be operating in, and then the combination of these things gives driving decision outputs to the Waymo vehicle. Okay, so on this, we're going to look at the difference in cost. Okay, variable costs for example, Tesla Robotaxi, Waymo, and then the Zoox system. As I just got done saying, Tesla is using a camera and AI based approach, which is kind of very similar to how humans drive. Okay, we have our cameras, we have a brain. Okay, that's kind of like our own neural network, and then we have driving decisions that come out. Um, the Waymo system. The LiDAR is incredibly expensive. The radar is incredibly expensive. They have to retrofit vehicles with all this additional equipment. So a Waymo looks like a car with a big hat sitting on top of it, and plus there's additional pieces of hardware that are kind of like bolted onto the outside corners of the vehicle, which I think is actually a really terrible design because these expensive sensors are sticking out on the corners, and if they do happen to bump into something, they're just going to get destroyed. And this adds up to 75 to $100,000 cost per Waymo compared to a manufacturing cost of $20,000 to $30,000 a piece for a robo-taxi. Actually, these robo-taxis are probably going to come in at closer to $20,000 costs. I put the $30,000 cost in there because Tesla does have plans to allow people to, in a sense, loan their Model Y vehicles into the robo-taxi networks. And so those cars will be a little bit more expensive, but most of them are going to be these very inexpensive cyber cabs that Tesla owns. And then the Zoox system is even, I think, more poorly thought out because not only do they have the high the big cameras, lidar, radar system, but their production methods are very low volume, and we're talking about far, far over $100,000 a piece in order to make these crazy contraptions. And they just have a handful of these things in operation so far in, I believe it's Las Vegas. Okay. Tesla does use a little bit of a LiDAR validation in order just to make sure that their AI is on track. And so there's a little bit of cost with that, but the Waymo system costs about 5 million to 25 million to go out and to, in a sense, 3D map out every single detail of every city that they need to enter into. And the thing that's really kind of terrible about this system is that let's imagine that they go and they create this massive 3D map of a city, and then something changes in that city, okay? Construction, roads get gets shut down, massive pothole erupts or something like that, then if any change that occurs in that city, they would have to go and remap the city. Zoox is in the same situation. Basically, the Zoox system and the Waymo systems are very similar from a technology standpoint and cost standpoint. So, this business of creating autonomy is all about the driving data, and Tesla has, in a sense, been using the drivers of all of their vehicles that they've produced over the past 10 years in order to feed the driving data into their AI, and has been, in a sense, you know, getting their training data for free. So you look at the number of miles that have been fed into the Tesla autonomous vehicle AI is about 7 billion miles at this point, whereas the Waymo driving mile data is only zero point 0.1. So just massive, massive 70 times more data than Waymo, and Zoox doesn't even show up on this graph. So here are a couple additional data points that suggest that this monopoly situation is emerging, and we're getting this almost like runaway, low cost type of thing happening. One is that recently the AI based insurance company known as Lemonade has is offering 50% discount on insurance for Tesla vehicles that have full self-driving built into them. Now, the insurance business is all about having proper risk information, and any insurance company that does not properly assign the correct risk to their policies is in danger of going bankrupt. Okay, so they are very, very careful about assigning risk profiles to different vehicles. And what they're saying right now is that you get a 50% discount on a Tesla if it has full self-driving on the thing. Okay, and so in a sense, the full self-driving that people are going to be that are for now purchasing or having on the vehicle is gonna save them money on their insurance. So it's like basically the insurance savings are gonna pay for the software subscription, which today is $99 a month. But I think that that's going to change because Elon Musk has recently also announced, and these things are related to each other, that they are going to um, uh, end outright purchases of their full self-driving um, option. So the way things work right now with the Tesla is that when you buy a Tesla, you can just buy the full self-driving package outright for $8,000, or as an alternative, you can subscribe for full self-driving as a subscription service for $99 a month. Okay. However, they're starting February, I think it's 14th, they're going to end the sales outright. So, why does Elon Musk want to stop selling the full self-driving outright for $8,000? The answer is he knows that we are just about to go to a level of full self-driving where it can be completely unsupervised, meaning people will be able to just, in a sense, say the destination that they want to go to and then let the vehicle drive, and they can just take a nap. Okay, they won't need to pay attention. They can text, they can, watch Netflix while the car does all of the work of driving. And this is going to drive up the demand, and they're going to be able to charge more than $99 a month going forward. So, no more outright ownership of the full self-driving starting in February of 2026. Another data point This is the second case of a Tesla vehicle driving coast to coast in the United States, this time from Los Angeles to New York City. No disengagements. We're talking no hands on the steering wheel. We're talking no feet on on the brake pedals, the accelerator. So Waymo and Zoox is it's all based upon high definition 3D mapping of a city, and there's a city-based geofence, and it's like you just can't take a Waymo from California to New York. It's imposible. It's impossible. And so this to me really illustrates how incredibly unique and powerful the Tesla full self-driving technology is. So, one of my favorite quotes that this situation reminds me of is from the Japanese war philosopher of Sun Tzu. Uh, Sun Tzu, I think I'm pronouncing that properly, who said, and this was the most literal translation, victorious warriors win first and then go to war, while defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win. Okay? Translated into a more common everyday kind of language, and this is the way I normally think of this quote, every battle is won before it is ever fought. And this is the same kind of idea that my high school football coach, Coach Froelich, used to say over and over and over again. And he even had this pasted outside the door of his office in the locker room, which is P to the sixth, P to the sixth power. Perfect practice prevents blank poor performance. Perfect practice prevents P poor performance, and you can fill in that P with what you think goes in there. Um, Michael Jordan was known for notoriously pushing himself and his teammates in practice harder than pretty much any other basketball player in NBA history. And so the great warriors of any domain know that you need to do the work up front. And I believe that the Tesla or the Waymo robotaxi type of product, in a sense, should never have been released to the market in its current form, that they should have thought through the technology and considered the idea of going with a camera in an AI-based approach. And I think that Waymo is in the situation like many of these companies that went into the business of trying to string wires throughout New York City in the 1890s. Um, their cost structure is just going to be way too high, and Tesla is eventually is going to just put them out of business probably within the next 4 or 5 years. Um, so, anyways, I wanted to share this type of information with everybody. This is, of course, top of funnel, this awareness level thing. I personally have about 18 maybe percent of my portfolio in Tesla. I think I would be adding to Tesla if the stock price drops below 400. I don't anticipate that's going to happen, but going forward, I would expect that the returns on this type of investment would probably average out to about a 40% per year return over the next 5 years. Um, so if you like this video, please consider hitting the like button and sharing or subscribing. And I'm always interested in hearing people's comments. Do you think that Tesla has won the autonomous driving battle? And do you think that they have superior preparation in order to win in this market? Um, Do you have a contrary opinion? I'm always interested in hearing from people. So please consider making a comment below. Until next time, this has been Top of Funnel with Jeff Whitaker. Take care, everybody.